when I first moved to Los Angeles, I had this total misconception that I was going to sit at the Formosa Cafe or something and somebody would saunter up to me and like offer me a 3-picture deal. But it doesn't work that way. You create that 3-picture deal.
Brian Smith here, and welcome to the Dream Path Podcast, where I try to get inside the heads of talented creatives from all over the world. My goal is to demystify and humanize the creative process and make it accessible to everyone. Now let's jump in. Naomi Grossman's on the show. Naomi is an Emmy-nominated actress, best known for her portrayal of the crossover character Pepper on the FX series American Horror Story, Asylum and Freak Show. Naomi also appears as the Satanist Samantha Crowe in the 8th season, Apocalypse. Created by Ryan Murphy and starring Jessica Lange and Sarah Paulson, American Horror Story is one of the most unique and fun, yet dark and terrifying shows on television, and Pepper turned out to be one of the most beloved characters of the series, making Naomi a fixture at Comic-Con events throughout the country. Fans may also recognize Naomi from her roles in the feature films Table for Three, The Chair, 1BR, Sky Sharks, Bite Me, Painkillers, The Lurker, Murder RX, The Portal, Preacher 6, and Fear Inc., along with numerous roles on television series like Casual, Wizard School Dropout, and Good Girls. In this interview, we of course talk about her role on American Horror Story, but we also talk about her one-woman show Carnival Knowledge and the one-woman show she is currently creating. Naomi also shares some advice for aspiring actors and talks about her experience as a member of the Groundlings Sunday Company. I think you'll enjoy the energy that Naomi brings to the interview. Her charisma leaps right out of the speakers as she talks about her journey from Northwestern University in Chicago to Los Angeles, and how she used her experience at Groundlings to blaze her own trail in Hollywood. So let's jump right into my chat with Naomi Grossman. So where are you right now?
I'm at home, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Aren't we all? I mean, yeah, I'm in Los Angeles.
Yeah. So how long have you been in Los Angeles?
You mean in my lifetime?
Well, yeah.
I've been here, since I graduated college, which was late 97. I came.
Wow. So you went to Northwestern, right?
Indeed,
yeah,
I did.
That's a great school.
It is. We had a good football team. We had a good football team when I was there. We went to the Rose Bowl for the first time in like millions of years. No one goes to Northwestern for football, of course. But then we also had a good football team this year until last weekend, actually.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, we lost. We were undefeated until then, and now, alas, we lost that. But it was exciting. You know, they've been like talking about, we haven't seen this since, 95, 96. And, so I've been kind of nostalgic about my alma mater lately.
That's funny. Yeah, it's weird to watch football games with no crowd and also the fake crowd noise that they pump in. It's like, do they really need that?
I didn't realize they were doing that. That's crazy.
In the NFL, they are. Yeah, they're pumping in
really?
Fake crowd noise. So when there's a call against the home team, there's the boos you hear. And it's very strange, at least in the NFL. That's what I'm hearing.
Right. Okay. I don't follow NFL, but that is weird. I guess, I'm sure they've done their research and they know that it affects the game. It affects the players. So right. I know as an actor, I can relate to that. Like doing a comedy show where no one's laughing is really unsettling. But apparently that's what we're doing these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing that. I follow a lot of comics on social media. And what I'm seeing and hearing is that they're doing these stand-up acts at drive-ins now. And so they're trying to do stand-up with no feedback from the audience or very little feedback. Maybe they're honking their horn or something to indicate, that they approve of the joke. But they're trying to find that connection, and the way to get out there and perform is it's very difficult. Are you seeing that in Los Angeles right now, that there's those types of efforts being made to break out of the pandemic bubble?
Yes. I have, I did comedy, not stand up per se, but, I was in the comedy world for a long time. and I mean, it's not that I'm out of it. I'm just comedy didn't fancy me in the way horror did. So you know, you go with where with whomever does fancy you. In any case, I am friends with a ton of comics, stand-ups as well as improv and sketch people, and yeah, there's been a lot of like Zoom comedy shows, which
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. I don't know. I
No,
can't do it.
no.
As much as I didn't even like going to comedy clubs and like having to park the car and the 2 drink minimum and the cover charge and the sit through a bunch of like terrible bringer comics that that are basically you're taking one for the team to have to see. I didn't even like doing it then, but to be sitting alone at home and and pay a cover charge just to like zoom into a comedy show. No. That's what Netflix is for. There's, curated great comedy, Emmy-winning, entertainment just waiting for you. You don't have to look that hard.
Yeah.
So
I feel terribly
they're
for them,
definitely.
though. I mean,
Yeah.
these comics have got what are they doing? I mean, to make a living, and also just what is their creative outlet right now?
Right. Well, I relate. The one silver lining of all of this is I'm very, very social. And so this has been especially kind of jarring. I used to have somewhere fabulous to go nightly, and I don't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I've, it's been good in that I am forced to sit down and write and create this new one-woman show that I'm working on now, which I was doing anyway, but I'd ultimately like have to cut off my inspiration on an nightly basis just to go to the party, the screening, or the whatever. And now I don't have that. So because let's face it, inspiration comes when it does, and you can't always plan it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that regard, it's been good because it's really forced me. Like I have no other distractions. Which fellow writers can understand. Like it's very common to organize the junk drawer and Marie Kondo the closet, and like you do everything before you sit down to write. And so now I have nothing else to do but write. So that in
No
that
excuses.
regard, it's been good.
Yeah.
No excuses. Yeah.
So how did you make your...
I've Marie Kondo'd my closet and organized my junk drawer too. I've done it all.
So how did you make your way from Northwestern to the Groundlings? I understand you were at the Groundlings for some period of time.
Yeah. Well, I pretty much, I left Northwestern only because I'd done my 4 Chicago winters, and that was sufficient. So I had a boyfriend at the time, my RA, older man, who he, I don't know that I've ever told this story. I mean, but anyway, he graduated before me and moved out to LA and was a PA on Friends, which at the time was, of course, like the hottest show.
Big deal.
And,
yeah.
Oh, very big deal. And the fact that he was getting them coffee, that's huge. That's like basically running Hollywood, So anyway, so of course I had to follow him out here, because he was like this with, the Friends. And of course we broke up like immediately. He dumped me more specifically, which was really hard, because moving to LA is no joke. Like it's a really isolating, weird, and that was before COVID. But it's such a big city, and yet it's so easy to feel alone. You're kind of stuck all by your lonesome in your car with 6 million other people. And it's a weird place. So I moved out here all of a sudden. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a life. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't even have a boyfriend. And so it was not easy, but I think ultimately, I'm forever the optimist. I do think he kind of did me some favors. I, kind of had to find my own way. And so that was great. Didn't feel good at the time, but but to answer your question, how I got to the Groundlings, because it wasn't right away. I wish it had been, because it was. The Groundlings was it wasn't all positive, but like Northwestern, it was a sort of a think tank. It was a comedy think tank full of other people who were just hyper creative and hilarious, and so I really thrived being around like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
I say that it was the best of times, worst of times, because as inspired as I was, like I was at Northwestern, at Groundlings, just being around these really just freakishly smart, funny folks, it was also one of those things where you were only as strong as your weakest link. You didn't want to be that weakest link because,
no kidding.
But at the same time, I never worried about being the strongest link necessarily, but, you didn't want to be that either, because then you're the one everyone wants to off the island. You know what I mean? Ultimately, it is like Survivor. They do make eliminations. You do not win $1 million. I was ultimately eliminated, which was also kind of a painful period. But again, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I actually quit acting afterwards for like a full year.
Just demoralized or what?
Yes, totally. It was one of those things where I just, I think I had in my head, like, it was going to go this way. Like, I was going to go to Groundling. I moved out here and I didn't get a sitcom right away. Like, Zooey Deschanel and a million other people that had gone to Northwestern. And that was sort of confusing, because it's like, well, but I was the lead in every play. Like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, that was a bit of a wake up call. And so, but then when I discovered Groundlings, I was like, oh, this is how it's going to happen for me. I'm going to, Lorne Michaels will come. He'll see me in the show. He'll put me on SNL. I'll do some fabulous iconic character that will, like a Pat or a Toonsis or somebody. You see, I haven't seen the show in a while.
Those
who
points of
will
reference,
then become
yeah.
like
date.
Right, her own like standalone. Like she'll have her own movie, and then it's all history. Then I become like Will Ferrell. So that was sort of my plan, and of course, it didn't quite happen that way. And so, yeah, when I left the Groundlings, it was really felt like it seemed like, well, that was how it was going to work, and how else is it going to work? Like, maybe it's not going to work. Like if the authorities, the powers that be at the premier comedy school in the entertainment capital say that I'm not worthy, then they must be right. And so I just figured, gosh, maybe I'll try having a boyfriend again, maybe actually get a real job, like just do those things that I've sort of been denying myself, because I had my eyes on the prize. I was all in to, this acting writing career. And so I did. I got a boyfriend. I got a real job teaching Spanish at a language school in Beverly Hills Lingual Institute. And I lasted, well, I went a whole year without being creative. And realized at the end of that was not working for me. I quit the boyfriend so that I could be creative, because I don't know. I have trouble doing both.
Multitasking.
For whatever reason,
Yeah.
I'm not a multitasker. Yeah.
Right.
But unfortunately, I couldn't quit the job because I needed the money. But I took the time that you invariably give to relationships back into my, acting and writing. And because I couldn't not create. I mean, I tried it and it didn't work.
So let's go back, if you don't mind going back to the Groundlings a bit, because I don't know much. For me, the Groundlings are kind of a black box. I've never been to a Groundling show. I've heard about it. It's almost, there's a mythology behind the Groundlings because of all of the folks that come out of there that go to amazing places. Who were your contemporaries, and what did that experience provide to you that you still have with you today that you find valuable?
Yes. Gosh. My contemporaries were in my specific company, that is the Sunday Company, Michaela Watkins, who was on SNL briefly. She was also, briefly, I don't mean to, that's just a fact, but she's gone on to do amazing things. She's starring in The Unicorn now. She was, of course, the star of Casual.
Which you were in, right? You were in Casual.
I had a quick little guest star, indeed.
I saw that,
It was so quick, but still.
Divorce lawyer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was nice to have my own face, So Michaela, as well as Catherine Reitman, who is the creator behind Working Moms.
Okay.
If you've seen that show, she's Ivan Reitman's daughter.
I was going to ask if there was a relation to Ivan and Jason.
Indeed. Yes, and Jason as well, of Casual, of course. Let's see. I think those were the two that kind of broke. But Melissa McCarthy was there while I was there. She wasn't,
nice.
In my company, but she was, I remember watching her on stage, like performing for, audiences of like 50 people and thinking, why, like, I can't believe I get to come here and spend like, I don't know, $10 to see like the most magical comedy happening on earth right now. And it's 10 feet away from me.
So you knew at that moment, you knew that it was pretty special what you were seeing right there.
Oh my God. And so I love her, but so much more special than the work we've seen her do since. Like, yes, it was like I was invited to this private show of like the greatest show on earth, and no one else, me and like 50 other people got to see it. These movies since are like, they make me so mad because she's so much better than that.
Like
but,
they're wasting her talent or something.
They are. Yeah. They are. Of course, her husband, Ben Falcone, was there as well at the time. And as was Kristen Wiig was at Groundlings. She was, again, they were maybe a few years ahead of me, but they were still there at the same time. Mm-hmm. Jim Rash, who you may know from Community.
I do. Yeah, I met him. I interviewed him on the red carpet at Sundance this year.
Amazing. Oh my God. I love that. Oh, right. He was there this year.
For Downhill. You were there?
Yes.
Oh.
I was there, though I wasn't doing much of anything except for maybe catching COVID. I don't know. I came home quite ill.
Me
really?
Too. Yeah.
I think we all did. We were probably all at the same super spreader event.
We were patient zeros. Yeah.
Yes. So I did not eat the bat, but
so what was the film that you were there for?
Oh, well, see, that's the thing. I wasn't really there for a film. Okay. I was there. Well, it's not entirely true. I'm in a movie that is on Netflix right now. It was #1 a couple weeks, month or two ago. I don't know. Their time is irrelevant right now. But recently, it came out on Netflix called 1BR. And it was not in the festival, and so that's why I say I wasn't there with the movie. But the producers of 1BR go every year and said, you got to go with us. You'll meet people, you'll make friends, you'll catch COVID. And I did all those things. In fact, I met somebody who I shouldn't use air quotes, worked with. It just didn't feel real. It was like a COVID rom-com that we shot a week or so ago. But like I said, it just didn't feel real. It was like me and 5 people in hazmat suits, with a camera. Like it felt kind of like a Zoom meeting, frankly. So that's why it didn't feel like a real movie. But hopefully, it will be. Anyway, I met her there.
Nice.
So they weren't wrong. It was I'm so glad. I'd never been before. So I really want to go with a movie, but I don't, regret going. I just regret the month that I was sick afterwards.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I've been to Sundance a few times just as a viewer, spending way too much money on a pass, and hotel rooms are just grotesquely expensive. And but I went this year as a member of the press, and I got to be on the red carpet, and that's where I met Jim Rash and Nat Faxon and Will Ferrell.
Of course, Nat too. Yeah,
he was there for Downhill and Julie Louis-Dreyfus. But the film festival experience is a lot of fun, and I'm kind of sad, but not kind of sad. I'm really sad that we're at a point now. I just got an invitation again to apply for press credentials. And it's going to be all online. I mean, all of these film festivals are online at this point. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't get excited. I can't. Yeah.
That's too bad.
You did ask another question though. Your question was, who were my contemporaries at Groundlings? But then there was a follow-up.
Yes, and
what were my takeaways?
What were
That's
takeaways?
Such a great question.
Yeah. What are you still holding on to today that you learned or gathered from Groundlings that helps you in your career or your life?
Yeah, I have to remember that because, like I said, when I think of Groundlings, there's I feel such a dichotomy. Like it was so painful and fun and hard and heart-wrenching and like all the things which don't usually go together. So I have to remind myself that there were some major takeaways from that time, which are super positive. I think teamwork is a huge one. I'm a real kind of solo gal. I'm an only child. I mentioned I'm single, and really comfortable being so. I live alone. I do solo performance. I love being around people, but I find that they kind of give me my energy, and then I'm a performer. I like being in front of people, but I also kind of need time to kind of decompress alone. And I find, I'm much more comfortable, writing all by my lonesome, on my own time. But I really learned there because you are encouraged to, collaborate and write with others. How much better off you are when you, listen to other people and take on their, take the note. And so that's been really, really invaluable. Like with my own one woman shows, I've been fortunate enough to have, a mentor, director, in all 3, who, I suppose I could have, I could have done it without them, but it would not have been the same. Like I wouldn't even, no.
Mm-hmm.
It's like parenting, without a baby daddy. I wouldn't even dream of doing it. Right. So having, learning collaboration was massive. I think also, their whole it really is kind of a training ground for Saturday Night Live. They're trying to get you to be able to turn around material quickly and put it out ready for, Saturday night.
Right.
In our case, we would write all week. Wednesday, we would bring the sketches up in front of a director. Then we'd get notes. We'd have to rewrite. I have them sent to her by noon on Friday. Friday night, she'd send a list of this is the show. You had Friday night, all of Saturday, and all of Sunday to memorize, block, rehearse, wig, costume. Do it all, cast, like all of it. And the show, is going up on Sunday night for a paying crowd, which you hope Lauren Michaels is a part of. It's a lot of pressure. Like, that's a full week. And I learned I don't love that. And that was important for me to know.
Yeah.
Maybe I was saved the fact that Lauren never came and never found me. I learned, even though I can work under that kind of pressure, I don't love it. I don't even love the 3 to 5 minute format. I mean, I learned to do it. If need be, I can squeeze my material into, that amount of time and stick, put a button on it. But if left to my own devices, I'll write an hour, and it won't be just, all big wigs and ha ha ha, like over the top, comedy. Maybe there'll be some pathos. Maybe it'll make you really stop and think, and maybe it'll, I don't know. I guess I learned as much as I learned to fit within their mold. I also learned my own mold, which really is actually, they don't go together, and I think that's important. Sometimes you have to, it's like an art class where they're like, you have to learn, you must use pointillism, and you learn, no, actually I'm a cubist. Like, okay, but you had to learn pointillism to figure that out.
Right.
So
yeah, well, it sounds like it was like a silver lining, because you don't have the rigidity of that format, that 3 to 5 minute format. You're not on a crazy SNL schedule that has you working 14, 18-hour days, 4 or 5 days leading up to the show, and all of the pressure. I mean, I've heard interviews with a lot of SNL folks, and it seems like there's a certain life that you have, a certain capacity to do that for a certain period of time, but you can't do it forever. And it's a burnout schedule for sure. But also creatively, I mean, what you've done with your one-woman show, Carnival Knowledge, and I watched some clips from that. There's what you're doing creatively is completely outside of the box and is very uniquely yours. So I'm glad that you didn't go that route, because what you're bringing to the world is really special. So.
Yeah, I remember some of those groundlings coming to that show, and afterwards, and they were like, wow, that was really different. And I kind of love that reaction, because it's like, yeah, it is. Like, I know you thought that I was just, the sketch girl who does 3 to 5 minute, bits, but actually I'm an hour-long girl who doesn't do bits, or can, but I'm much happier making you laugh for 45 minutes and then turning you and making you stop and think and maybe even cry in the last 15. So
I saw an interview that you did with this young kid, and is his name Elliot? I forget his name. The little boy.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yes.
So you did this interview with this sweet young boy who has this amazing YouTube channel, and he was asking all these really funny questions. But one of the things you brought up was one of your inspirations was with Lily Tomlin, and the one woman show. Talk about a pioneer with one woman shows. But your one woman show reminds me Not that you're, it's a copycat or anything, but you can definitely see that you have that vibe where you're funny. I mean, very kinetic, amazingly kinetic and funny, but at the same time, there's vulnerability, there's pauses, there's time to reflect, and it's not stand up. And so that sensibility, I love that sensibility with one woman shows, one man shows, and to put that together and have the courage to be that vulnerable for that long of a time on stage, it blows my mind. So I'm very impressed with what you've done.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you're gonna love this new one that I would say working on, but I sort of stopped for the last like 3 weeks, and I'm getting back to it tomorrow. I mean, we're in lockdown now, so what else is there to do?
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, really just dotting the T's or dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I'm really close to being done. And there is so much pain in this show. It's also hilarious. And that's my favorite kind. Like, and honestly, I feel really blessed as an actor. I think that I have an outlet, and what would I do with all this emotion if I were, a realtor or a dentist? I don't know. So I feel really like this is what I was put here to do. Like, I don't have anywhere, how else to, put it out there. So, Lily is, she does know, actually. I've told her. But I don't think she really understands. I remember being a little girl and seeing her up on stage doing, Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe. And the fact that you say, like, I can see that it's like a huge compliment to me. I actually served on a little a committee with her for the Television Academy a couple years ago.
Oh,
and I remember the whole time I was such a weirdo. I would sit like on the opposite end of the room, like just too cool for school, like kind of pretended like I didn't know who she was. Like, but I mean, I was like freaking out, like clenching my butt the whole time. And like, it was like being back in middle school with like a cute boy, and you just are paralyzed and can't even behave. That's how I was with her. And finally, we had a last supper, and I brought, my Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe poster that I'd had on my wall since I was a little girl, and my 9 to 5 mug, and her albums. Even, I mean,
9 to 5. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and she was blown away. She's like, I didn't know you even knew who I was. I was like, oh, I'm good. But so I really I fangirled hard, and so now she knows. Like, it's jig is up. But she's so lovely. I mean, when I was nominated for an Emmy, I think she was nominated that same year. Yeah, she was. She was nominated for Frank and Gracie. Grace and Frankie.
Right.
Sorry. I'm obviously, I'm an OG fan. I'm not one of these nouveau, just jumped on the bandwagon. She wrote me an email to congratulate me. It was just like,
oh my gosh, God. Really? How sweet. Yeah. And
I know.
Private note like that?
Yes.
Oh. I saw you on the red carpet, by the way, for that. That you had that was 2018, right? The Emmy nomination. Yeah.
You've done your research. I'm impressed.
Oh, I try to do a deep dive on, who I'm going to talk to in these interviews, but you were really fun to research. There's so much to talk about. I mean, here we are 30 minutes into it. We haven't even talked about Pepper. Because you've got so much going on before that and after that. That is fascinating to me. But what I found, going back to the improv issue, I've taken some improv classes, and I'm an attorney. I'm a trial attorney by day. And I took improv classes to to be better in front of juries, like just to be able to connect. And I think performance is part of being a trial attorney. If you're going to be in the courtroom, you're performing to some degree, but not acting. What you're doing, I think, is just trying to be present. And
Yeah.
when you're listening, like when I'm asking questions of a witness on the stand, or I'm talking to the jury, trying to be present. I'm trying to look at body language and not be in my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my problem has always been that I am always in my head. And if I'm in improv classes, it's so painful for me to be pulled into the present. It scares the shit out of me, to be honest with you. It's like, whoa, I actually have to not be thinking about how I'm going to look to others. I have to let that vulnerability come out and just sit with it and be okay, because otherwise I can't actually listen to what this person is saying, and therefore I can't react to what they're saying. And I love that. I hate that about improv, but I love that about improv at the same time, because it makes us, I think, more human, and it connects us. And so that's what I appreciate. And I haven't done the deep dive you have done on improv at all, but I totally respect those who actually go through the process of like a Groundlings, or some type of school like that, or class where you're putting yourself out there. And I think I can see it in everything that you do, the presence that you have, and even their presence right now. I mean, it's very obvious that you have either a natural talent for that, or training, or both.
Oh my God. I needed this today, by the way. We had a very heated HOA meeting last night, and I was not feeling the love, but I'm feeling it now. So thank you.
Oh.
You must have known that I needed some good vibes.
I hate HOA meetings.
Seriously. No, you're totally right about improv. And that's one thing that I suppose I took away from as well from it. But they were pretty adamant, especially early on in the classes, because the way Groundlings works, and you're right, it's a total, it's a very mysterious place, but it starts with this huge pool of people, like everyone who ever thought they were funny in high school, like whoever was laughed at even once, comes to the school. And then, little by little, it's like this pyramid where, people get eliminated. And then by the very end, you're in the Sunday Company, and it's this very small, in our case, it was 14 of us, this group. And then of those 14, actually 10, myself included, was eliminated. So there were only 4 that lasted. And then of those 4, only 1 actually turned out to become a groundling, and that was Michaela Watkins.
Wow.
I digress. It turns out, but so early on, when it's like everyone who's ever thought they were funny even once, they actually tell us, or, told us then, don't be funny. Like, don't even try to be funny. Just try to be present. Just listen. Okay. Just be here now. And that's really good advice, because you can tell when somebody's working, when they're trying too hard. Mm-hmm. When they're back here thinking about, what could I say? What could I do that would be funny? They're not here. They're not listening. They're not present with their scene partner, and they miss the funny. The whole point of doing improv is you're present and you're reacting honestly in the moment. And if you can't do that and be back here, thinking about what would be funny at the same time. So, yeah, like if you are funny, you just will be. You don't have to work at it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that probably it applies to, I bring this up a lot when I talk to guests on this show. There's a very profound interview and conversation I had with a screenwriter who passed away recently. Her name's Bettina Gillois. And I talked to her last year. But one of the things that she's a screenwriter for biographies, basically, so real life stories, and she did Bessie for HBO with Queen Latifah, and she's done a bunch of biopics, basically. But her concept that we were talking about story logic is that whatever you chase in life runs away from you, and whatever you run from chases you. So there's the importance of just being is paramount, because if you're there and you're just accepting of the moment, then you can allow things to happen, and you can see things and they're unfolding before you, like funny, like humor, like vulnerability or whatever. But if you come in with a plan and you're chasing that plan, it's never going to go according to plan. So that's kind of my takeaway from that interview, and that's what I heard you saying a little bit with the improv philosophy.
Right. But now you've got me thinking, like, what am I chasing and what am I running away from? And I don't know. I'm going to have to find a therapist for that one. I don't know.
Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just in the moment, and you're, the universe is telling you need to write this one woman show, and you don't really have a plan beyond just, end scene, the last words of whatever the script is going to be, and see how it is received, and see if COVID, the pandemic, allows you to perform it in a way that it needs to be performed, hopefully.
Right. Well, the good news is my dream for this show, unlike the other two, only because I was in kind of a different place in my life when I did those, the dream now is was anyway, when I started this about a year ago, was to sell it to Netflix or one of those, as a 1 hour streaming 1 hour comedy special. The fact is, before now, that wasn't really a thing. and now they are. So I feel like there's no reason why this show isn't. I mean, it's right up there with the other streaming specials, on there now. So I don't see why not.
Right.
So the good news is about COVID is that, it's very unlikely that I'll be able to do this the way I have in the past. But maybe my dream will be realized. Maybe COVID is going to make it so that all I need is a cameraman and a lighting guy and me, and that's perfectly doable right now. So I don't know. Like we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful. I mean, it will happen. Like, that's the good news. What is that expression? That what you put in energy into thrives, that which you take energy away from dwindles, whatever it is. Some Indian guru said it. But, I have been like I planted this seed probably fall of last year, and I have been gardening like a mofo all year long, and it's about to flower, and I'm really excited about it. So
that's so awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. I was just gonna say I'm a little woo woo. I have a psychic friend, not like someone I call and pay money, like a psychic friend's line. I literally have a friend who's psychic, and we were talking, and we were talking about boys, and she I've never told this story before either, so I may crash and burn, but we were talking about boys, and I'm just sort of my general disillusionment, and well, I mean, I got it. We're in a pandemic. Like, how am I supposed to meet someone? Like, forget it. Like,
well, and you have every right to be disillusioned with boys, so totally.
Right. With or without pandemic, right? Yes. So, but in the middle of it, while we were talking, I got a text that was from a producer friend who's actually working on my new show with me, and she was basically making some suggestions, like we could send it to so and so or so and so, and I didn't like any of her suggestions. And so, but my psychic friend was like, no, it's okay. Read your text. It's fine. It's fine. So I'm like, listening, I'm making faces. And she said, and she just sort of stepped away and she said, oh no, read your text. It's good. This gives me a chance to kind of like assess you. And I was like, oh, it's okay. You don't need to assess me. Like, I don't want you to feel like you're always like giving me a reading every time we hang out. Like, we're allowed to just be girlfriends and talk, dish about boys. So she's like, no, it's okay. Read my text and sort of didn't like any of the suggestions. I put the phone down and she said, this one, you'll take no compromises. You're not going to compromise with this next one. And what's really interesting about that is that she was probably talking about boys still, because that was the conversation we've been having. But I, in my mind, went into my show, so in my mind, her suggestion had to do with my show and how I'm not taking these compromises. I refuse to compromise when it comes to the show. But the real irony of the whole thing, maybe it's not irony, I don't know. The show is all about making compromises and how I'm over it. Like, I am done making compromises. But the point is, the show is an anthology series about autobiographical tales of self-compromise.
Okay.
And that's what was so crazy about this. I mean, the show is about compromise, and she's like, you're done compromising. And it was just, and I asked her, like, what does it mean? And she said, it means that you are perfectly aligned in this moment. Like, the vibes you are giving are exactly in line with like your whole mission statement for the moment, which I just thought was really cool.
That's awesome.
I don't know what that has to do with what we were talking about, but I think you were talking about my solo shows and how they are. And I like I said, I know, even despite everything that's happening in the world, this show is happening. Period.
Yeah.
The psychic sees it. I know it. Like, there's no stopping it at this point. Like, avalanche has started to roll, and you cannot stop it now. So
that's awesome. That must be a good feeling to be that confident in what you're doing, and also have that affirmation from your friend that is, knows things.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where right now let's face it, if there's anything we learn from this time in our lives, it is that there are no knowns. Like, there's nothing we can take for granted. Like, we don't know that we'll have a new president in January. We don't know if Christmas is really, if Santa's coming. We don't know whether we can, we'll see our loved ones tomorrow. So, there's really like nothing that we can be sure of in this period. And actually, we never have been sure. We just thought we were.
Right.
But I will say, like, this show is like the one thing that I feel like I can be really certain about. How it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. Of course, we don't know.
Yeah, whether you're going to have to pump in a crowd noise like the NFL does, or who knows.
Right. But yeah.
As you may have noticed, there are great resources and advice mentioned in all our episodes. And for many of them, we actually collect all of these resources for you in one easy place: our newsletter. You can go to dreampathpod.com/newsletter to join. It's not fancy, just an email about each week's episode, featured artists, and resources to help you on your journey. Thanks. And now back to the interview. So I can't go this entire episode without asking you about American Horror Story, because
of course.
that, and I know you probably get asked about this so often. I hope you don't get tired of it, but what I love about your characters, plural, on American Horror Story, is that they give you an arc, that you're not, you're not just there for decoration or for a novelty, I should say. I think that's probably a better word, because if you have literally an insane asylum or a freak show at a circus, I think that if you don't have Ryan Murphy on board, you have someone else running the show, there's a danger of falling into this trap of just having gimmicks. Like everything is a gimmick. This is, let's just be over the top here. And there's no depth to these characters. But you especially have these incredible arcs in these seasons where there's so much humanity that comes out. And when you got involved, my question, I guess it's a long way of asking, when you got involved in this project and you knew you had the part, did you know that there was going to be this arc and this depth and this complexity that we see in the finished product?
Okay, I have lots to say about this. But quickly to answer exactly what you're asking, no. I had no idea. I knew nothing. I knew it was a guest star, which is just up from background extra. I knew I had I think it was a 3-episode guarantee, which I was in the first 3 episodes. And then if you recall, I went pee and disappeared for a while. I was, of course, hanging out with the aliens. Spoiler alert. But, I knew that the show said, don't cut your hair. Mm-hmm. So I knew there was a chance I'd be back. But, we would typically shoot only maybe 5 episodes ahead of the viewing public. So when people were like, Pepper went away, they were like, where's Pepper? And I still didn't know. Like, I thought, I'm like, I'm in the bathroom? I don't know. Like, they didn't tell me. Right. So I had no idea. I believe they knew. I believe Ryan knows all, but of course, he's the creator. Let's face it. But in every way, I think he. I think the audition process. They had me do 2 different scenes. They had me do, they gave me a ball and they asked me to try to get them to play with me as an improv, as if I were a little girl, which, they didn't even tell me. There was no talk of pinhead or microcephaly or any of that. So I just knew to play a 4-year-old, wow. Which of course Groundlings really prepared me for. But let's face it, that would enable them to see whether I could do, the early Pepper without necessarily outing it to me and all the other millions of actresses and managers and agents in Hollywood what American Horror Story was up to. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, they also had me do a monologue of Jessica Lange's from season 1, which I really blew my mind, because I was like, what is this? Like, why am I doing a scene that she already won an Emmy for? Or what? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even know. Now, of course, in retrospect, we understand they wanted to see that I had range, that I could go from this early, playful Pepper to the later evolved Pepper. So they knew that it was going to happen, but I definitely did not. And even then, I remember being so confused. Like, it was, the script. I never even got full scripts. I only got the scenes I was in. And I remember being like, wait, Pepper normal? Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, Pepper is normal for her. You know what I mean? That is her normal. Right. So, you know what I mean? Just like, this is my normal. This is your normal. that's Pepper's normal. So what do you mean Pepper's normal now? Like because I didn't get the alien memo, it was like, so I remember preparing like a bunch of like whatever I thought normal was. I knew that they didn't mean Pepper's normal because, let's face it, there was like big chunks of dialogue, and then there was no way that she was going to, be able to say all those words, like multi-syllabic words. So, I had an inkling, but I remember even just being in the makeup chair and asking the makeup people these directorial questions, which they, of course, then texted, the powers that be, like, when you say normal, no, no, no. I mean, I was literally getting the direction like that, like while I'm getting my makeup done. But even then, when I came back for Freak Show, it was the exact same deal. Like I want to say it was like a 5-episode guarantee. So I knew, I felt confident. The fact that they brought me back at all and that we're willing to kind of break their own rules. And, let's face it, what does that mean for Emmys, which are a big deal around there, of course.
Right, right.
Like, are we no longer a limited series if we've got returning characters? I mean, they took a chance, let's face it. And, I remember like on that, like episode 5, 6, 7, 8, kind of going like, what's going on? Like, you're absolutely right. This show is all about these, characters with these like wonderful arcs, and no one's wasted. No one's just background unless you're truly background.
Right.
And so I was like, I know for a fact they wouldn't just bring me back to play with string in the corner and, deliver the fat lady food. Like, right. I know I'm not just filler.
Right.
I mean, I am, let's face it, like all the, in order to have a freak show, you need some freaks. And I was one of them. So in a way, I knew that was my place, but I also couldn't believe that they wouldn't do more with me. And of course they did. Yeah. So, I was right. You were right. But there was a long time, I want to say, 9 whole episodes of kind of going, where is this going? And
yeah, they really wrapped it up nicely at the end. That orphan episode, really just heartbreaking, but just touching too, because you have this relationship with Jessica Lange that outsiders probably don't appreciate and understand until they see the look on your face as you're looking at the picture of her. And I'm trying to not to give too much away,
episode, but no, of course. Well, people haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that's true. I want them to go back and watch it though.
Oh, yeah. That episode, I mean, I had to cry every day for the 2 weeks that we were it was like on a daily basis. There would be, Pepper was having some kind of meltdown, whether it was, reading The Velveteen Rabbit or banging her head against the wall in the asylum. And, let's face it, like I haven't had that much experience having to cry on cue. Like I'm a Groundlings girl. And so, Jessica is a geyser. She can just turn it on and, bam. Whereas, I haven't had that, all that much experience with that. And so, but I mean, let's face it, I went to drama school. Like I know how to do it. I just
the tools.
Haven't had to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're just not as sharpened as hers are. But I did learn in those 2 weeks, let's face it, the things that make you cry on day 1 are different than the things on day 14. Like you have to keep finding things. And that episode was so beautifully written. I could cry. Like at the beginning, I could just open the script, read a page, and I would be there. Like, and then they could, call, roll camera. Like that's all it required. As it went on, I had to, think about my dog that died and this and that, all those tricks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the show also, it was so meta. I mean, that scene where I'm saying goodbye to Jessica Lange, I was really saying goodbye to Jessica Lange. Like,
Right.
I knew there in that moment that this was it. Like, I probably wasn't going to work with her again in that context. I was saying goodbye to this home I made in New Orleans for those, 6 months that we were working there. I was saying goodbye to all my new friends, the freaks, the Kathy Bates, Sarah Paul. I mean, the whole gang. I was saying goodbye to Pepper. I mean, let's face it, I'd really come to love this person, and this job. Like it really was a true goodbye. And so yeah, as much as Pepper was saying goodbye to Jessica, I was saying goodbye to Jessica. I was saying goodbye to the show. I was saying goodbye to my job. I was saying goodbye to my role. I was saying goodbye to my city. Like that was not a hard scene to shoot.
Yeah.
Like I had to just be there.
Yeah.
Be
the
present.
emotion was there already. You just had to
Yes.
unleash it. Sounds like.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was really a matter of letting it come through that makeup, because there's so much makeup on that.
It's incredible. I don't know how they accomplish the proportions, because your head looks so small relative to your body. And I don't know. I know it's not CGI. It must be a wardrobe and a combination of wardrobe and makeup. But the transformation is just remarkable.
They did look into doing CGI, of course, but that's very expensive. And when they can do it practically, it's always more impressive. Of course, the shaving my head helped, obviously. Not that I had a whole ton of hair, but, I was that much smaller looking. And of course, they really built me out. Like I had a fat suit. And of course I was helping them physically as well. I had, I was kind of hunched over for most of the time. So, I know as a petite person, like if I gain a pound, you can see it. Whereas if I were, longer, it's like, where does it go?
Right.
So, the fact that I went from my, 5 feet of fun to 4'8", just in my own posture, kind of made my body look that much bigger. And of course, my head isn't changing size, but yeah, it was kind of an illusion. I think when people meet me, they're always a little like, "Oh, wow, you're very short, but you're not that short, and you're definitely not that fat." And your head you're perfectly proportioned.
Yeah. So does that role allowed you to do like Comic-Con appearances, or somehow utilize that connection to still, to connect with audiences and also to make money?
Oh my gosh, like what you're seeing is all from Comic-Cons. I mean,
Really?
with every single one, I can almost remember, like, I remember that guy in Lexington, Kentucky, and that guy in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Like legit. So this came from Canada. Yeah, I've gosh, in 2015, which was the year after Freak Show, I traveled 44 of the 52 weekends that year.
Wow.
To some Comic-Con, some shoot, somewhere, that. I mean, thank God that was 2015 and not 2020, because I had to cancel several appearances this year as well, of course. But at least it wasn't that year. I mean, I made way more on the back end of that show than I ever did actually, from the show.
What a fantastic
again,
opportunity that is. Wow.
I was going to say I started out as a co-star, which is, like I said, doesn't make much money. So that's not really saying that much, but
right.
No. It was amazing. I didn't even know those things existed. It was I was like all of a sudden in the center of this total, like, kind of pop culture phenomenon. And it was something that I hadn't even heard of.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
When I told my kids I was interviewing you, I mean, they just freaked out because there's a whole younger generation of people, and I was freaking out too, of course, but they really, they look at Asylum and Freak Show as their favorite seasons of American Horror Story, because not just because they're great seasons, but because of you and you're their favorite character. And I think that that has to be true. I mean, I'm sure my kids are like a cross section of that generation, and it's probably true throughout the world. So, well done pulling that off to start off as a co-star, but really to be after the show, after your run on the show, to be the star, in my opinion. So nice job.
That's so nice. Oh my God. I am taking it all in. Thank you. No, truly, we actors, what are we without an audience? And so, I've been denied, hearing the applause of an audience for 9 months now. So I love it. I need it. It's why I have this room. I remember once having a gentleman caller who came in here and said, "Ugh, how gross. You have like all these pictures of yourself. Could you be any more of a narcissist?" And I was like, what? Like, you don't get it. Like, you don't get me. Like, this is other people's art, which my art inspired. Like, to think that I'm this isn't this narcissistic pursuit that, I think so many actors are sort of what is the word? See, I don't talk to people anymore, so my vocabulary is just out the window. I think actors are accused of sort of being narcissists in general, but I actually. And I want to say I even subscribed to that until this, and I realized, no, actually, we're providing a service. Like, we are bringing humor and thought and entertainment to people's homes, and for it, we are being rewarded, and we are inspiring creativity and art and thought, and it's a beautiful thing. Like, and so honestly, like, in the case of a fire, well, I'd be screwed because it's all on the wall. But this is what I would run for first. Like, it's the thing that I love most.
Yeah, and I don't look at it as an act of narcissism to put those up there. I look at it as honoring the character that gave you a lot of opportunities and to find an audience that you probably wouldn't have otherwise found, and also honoring the folks that took the time to put, and made this effort to create these things that are honoring your character. So it's not really about you, it's about the character that you helped create, in my opinion.
Well, and let's face it, I don't have kids, but for those who do, they have a refrigerator full of, chicken scratch because Billy drew a tree in kindergarten, and that tree is so, it's so precious to that parent. And, I don't have that, but I do have this. And like, my baby made all these things. Like, this is no different in my mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very special. It's definitely the place I come after ugly HOA meetings so that I can, like, feel good again. And like I said, talking to you has been really good for me too.
Yeah. Well, it's been a lot of fun getting to know you and the person behind the character, Pepper, and so many other great. I mean, we've talked about Pepper in American Horror Story, but you really have an impressive filmography, and you're doing a lot of great work on television besides American Horror Story since that time. And I can't wait to see your one woman show in whatever format it arises and presents itself. I'm going to seek it out and watch it and share it with my audience for sure. One question I try to ask my guests, especially when they've reached the level of success that you have, is what advice do you have for young people or even older people who are trying to break into, I don't know, break into is the right word, but trying to become an actor in television, on the stage, or in film? And if they don't live in Los Angeles, I know it's probably going to be a challenge for them. So maybe don't address the geographical problems of being in Kansas, but just what should they be focusing on and doing to get into that industry?
Yes, that I'm distracted here now only because I've literally written a list of do's and don'ts just to answer your question.
Awesome. I love lists.
So I'll refer to it here. I was going to say, how much time do you have? Because here's the thing. Here's another reason why this is so special to me is that I went a very long time without anyone knowing who I was. I mean, you mentioned my filmography, but guess what? There was a long time that I couldn't get arrested. I couldn't get a, nurse number 2 to the left. And I have a theory about that. I've always been kind of this over the top character, and those itty bitty little, scalpel doctor type roles are really reserved for wallflowers. Like they need those actors are just there to support. Period.
Right.
Not distract, not take focus at all. And that is not me.
Yeah, you're a scene stealer.
I am. I walk into the room and you cannot miss me. And I've always been that. I'm not. Listen, it's not always a great thing. Sometimes I wish I could just kind of hide, but I can't. So that said, for the longest time, I even tried working as a background extra only because, I needed the money, and let's face it, I've got lots of stories of compromise, and that was one of them. And so, but even working as an extra, I remember them saying, yeah, you in the black and white sweater, can you move much further back? No, just actually turn around. No, actually just go to holding. It's okay. We'll call you.
Right.
I was such a bad extra. And in general, I was so, and so that's why Pepper was really this sort of perfect storm of a role, because she was small enough that I could actually get her, without a long filmography. And yet she was big enough that I could really shine. I could really act to the back row, and it was okay. In fact, it was necessary in order for it to sort of penetrate all that makeup. In any case, the point is, what is the point? That is why I have all this around me, is because I do not forget what it was like to be struggling and to be one of these young actors, listening to podcasts, going please tell me, give me the goods, tell me what I need to know.
The secret formula.
I went, oh yeah, serve me that special sauce. I got my SAG card on my 15th birthday, and it wasn't until I was 37 years old that I was actually able to use SAG insurance and go to the doctor.
Wow.
I'm not saying I didn't go to the doctor for 22 years, but I couldn't use SAG insurance. Like I didn't,
couldn't afford the copay.
I couldn't afford the copay. So,
Right.
yeah, like, so I think that's one thing I get always at the Comic-Cons is, wow, you're so, you're so down to earth. You're so approachable. I'm like, well, yeah, because I remember like, it wasn't that long ago that I was, couldn't afford the copay. So anyway, sorry about that little tangent. Let me get to my list of what to do. Okay. Number one, I would say just figure it out what it is that you want to do, put it out there, and then just let it go. In my case, it was I wanted to be a character actress. I always thought it was going to be SNL, Groundlings SNL, Toonsis the Cat, the movie. It wasn't. It was this whole other path. But I think the point is you got to get a gimmick. Yes, find your niche, but don't necessarily micromanage it. Like allow the universe or whatever it is you believe in to, do your thing, and then the path will find itself. Like I do believe, like I actually did get what I came here for, or I'm getting it anyway. Like I am a character actress. It didn't happen the way I wanted it to, but it happened.
Right.
So I think that's an important, is to, yes, find your niche, but don't be so locked in to how it happens for you that you avoid other possibilities.
Makes a lot of sense.
I say to love what you do, look deep inside. If you don't love it, and this is sort of a Debbie Downer kind of a piece of advice, like if you don't love this work, and I do mean work, not on chatting with you at Sundance on the red carpet, not traveling the world signing autographs for money, no, like the work of not being able to make your copay for 22 years,
right,
then you should just do something else.
Yeah.
Like do what makes you happy. And I think I was always an actress, like since conception. And so when I really struggled when it wasn't working for me, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I've never been anything else. I've been this, like, ever since anyone ever asked me, like, what are you going to be when you grow up? It was always I was actress. So I didn't have a backup plan. And I think that was both like, in a way, key to my success because I didn't have a plan B. In fact, that would maybe segue into my next piece of advice. Do not have a plan B, because if you have a plan B, you should just do that instead.
Right.
Like you need, like I found when I quit the boyfriend, but couldn't quit the language institute because I couldn't afford not to. I realized, like, I have to be creative to be happy. And it's also something I learned during COVID. Like, I was going to drown myself in the pool and let those assholes on the HOA find me if it weren't for having a creative outlet.
Oh, geez.
Can you tell?
The visuals are great.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, yeah. Don't have a plan B.
Love what you do.
Do that instead. Love what you do. Don't have a deadline, or rather, quit when it stops being fun. I know. I know for a long time, people were like, "How long are you going to give this?" I mean, I think even my own mom was starting to doubt me, because I was like, "Oh, I never stopped seeing that I would do this." I always saw it. And for a long time, well, towards the end, especially before Pepper, I should say, I there was a point where I was the only one that saw it. And that was hard. But I do believe that, I did stop having fun on occasion. And so I had to just find the fun again. And I think that's important. You know, I do think staying in the game is another big one, like buzzword, stay in the game. And I know I just said stay in the game, quit when it stops being fun in the same sentence. But if you have fun, first and foremost, it'll keep you in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even just showing up, you're that much more likely to be successful.
Right.
And I think you even said something about, I don't remember. You've said so many wise things. I can't wait to go back and listen to this interview.
Right.
Some other little tidbits, or don't wait, create. You know, I think when I first moved to Los Angeles, I had this, I don't know, I just had this sort of total misconception that I was going to, like, you know, sit at the Formosa Cafe or something and somebody would saunter up to me and like offer me a 3-picture deal. You know, I'd been watching too much, I don't know what. But it doesn't work that way. Like, especially now, like, you create that 3-picture deal. And
it's a hustle.
It's a hustle. And that's what this new show is all about. So, I think surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals is really important. I think, you know, that's why Groundlings was such a really great place for me. Northwestern too. You know, when I think about the years where all I was doing was, you know, driving in the Red Bull truck. And I mean, as much as I'm still friends with the Red Bull girls, you know, it's important to find your people, with whom you know, fellow creatives, to kind of keep you motivated and, you know, in the game. I also couldn't give advice without proselytizing a bit about yoga. I'm a huge kind of yogi, and I think really having that hour and a half to sort of silence your mind and turn off your phone and just breathe and do whatever the teacher's saying. And if all that is, you know, extend your arms, then that's all you're doing in that moment. And I think that's really important, especially now. We're so inundated. There's so much, I mean, news and posts and BS everywhere around us. And you have to just decompress. And I know I am a completely different person after I do yoga. You know, with COVID, well, I have like a yoga speakeasy that I sneak off to, which fortunately my teachers actually just recently become ordained as a minister, so that even now during the shutdown, if I get stopped, I can say I'm going to my, you know, my church, my yoga church, in her house. But I really think that that's important. And you'll have a rockin' body to boot. I also think that it's, you have to have a life. I think there is nothing more repellent to Hollywood people than an actor that only talks about acting. You know what I mean? Like going to these Sundance super spreader events, and well, obviously you're going to talk about your movie, but it's important to know about the world and life and be just knowledgeable about other things other than yourself and your acting. You know, I think especially for young people who are wanting to be actors, you know, so often all they want to do is acting. Like I was that way. I would have been happy at a one of those schools that are like just only not liberal arts, but rather only arts and entertainment schools, performing arts schools.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
there's a word for it, but anyway, like a niche,
like a
BFA program.
Berkeley School of Music or something like that.
Berkeley School of Music. I would have been happy at Juilliard, where all I got to do was tap dance and do like Martha Grant's, viewpoints or whatever. Like that, I would have been happy with that. But my parents very smartly said, no, you need to get a full education. You can be a theater major, sure, but you need to take some neuroscience so that you'll know about Pepper and her microcephalia when you play that one day.
Right.
You need to take film history so that you know about the film freaks and watch it on a loop in preparation for that role. Like the fact is, like having a full education, knowing about things in the world will not only prepare you for that breakout role 22 years later, but also will just make you not annoying at cocktail parties at Sundance, which is actually really important.
Yeah.
And something I think, we don't think about. As kids, we're just thinking about the moment, what we want to do now, and not what it's the person that it's going to shape us into.
The
ultimately,
foundation that you're building to become what you want to become. Yeah. That's
right,
quite a list.
Right.
Quite a list.
It is quite a list. Believe it or not, there's even more, but that's a lot. That will keep your youngsters busy and in school. Stay in school.
Usually I get a one-liner, and you gave me a wonderful essay on that. There's a lot to chew on there. So thank you for that, Naomi.
Well, I'll tell you, this year there's a dozen, personal appearances that I've mentioned I've had to miss. And many of them are actually to schools to talk to their, drama departments about just this. So at least I had an outlet for it.
Yeah. Well, Naomi, it's been so generous of you to sit down with me and spend so much time sharing your story, sharing the wisdom and the insight that you have. I've learned a lot. I know my listeners are going to really enjoy this. People can find you, it looks like, on your wonderful website, naomigrossman.net. And you have these very active social media accounts, at least on Instagram. I see you're doing some yoga stuff on there. Verified celebrity on Instagram, blue check mark.
Ooh la la.
Yeah. So are you on Facebook much? I see you have a ton of followers on Facebook.
I am. I don't know why people say, oh, you haven't been on here much. I try to post every day. There's not a whole lot to post about right now, except maybe I'll have a new yoga pose. But I am. I posted just this morning. So I also have a verified Facebook. So people can go there too. I have a friend page too, which at this point, they're the same. Like, you're not getting any special perks by being my friend as opposed to my fan friend. They are the same. So,
right. Okay.
Just to curb that, because,
Well, I want to encourage everybody to follow Naomi on social media. She's got positive, wonderful posts. She's funny. And I think it's nice to have that type of positivity on, everybody's political. I couldn't help but be political on social media up until through the election. But you have some nice content on there. And Naomi, thanks again for talking to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was very hard not to be political there towards the end. I know I got some flack. I posted my boobies with I voted stickers, and I lost a bunch of followers doing that, which I think I'm surprised. I would think I would gain followers.
Absolutely.
No, I lost 300 followers like overnight.
Oh, from that. Yeah.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's like seeing a little boy with stickers on his chest. It's not that exciting, folks. Like, what are you upset about?
Right.
Anyway, but then, strangely enough, I haven't posted like all week. I think I posted Monday and then just now again today. And boom, I'm up 500. So I'm learning don't post your boobies. Actually, don't post anything and you will get followers. Like the less I do, maybe that's the wisdom. We're coming back around. When you said what you chase will
runs away from
repel.
you.
And maybe if I just closed my accounts and went away, or like just went to an island and dropped off the social media universe for a while, I'd come back with like just millions and millions. I don't know.
Perhaps that's the secret, Naomi. So fun to talk to you, and can't wait to see that one woman show. So keep us posted.
I absolutely will. You too. I look forward to seeing this, hearing this.
Well, you have a great weekend, Naomi. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
Hey, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, I have a favor to ask. Can you go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review? Your feedback is what keeps this podcast going. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with the handle @DreamPathPod. And as always, go find your dream path.